Today is March 25th, 2026. Welcome back to Know My Go channel. The AI world is moving fast on every front. Chips, agents, infrastructure, regulation, autonomous driving, and even how engineers themselves work. In this roundup, we're going to connect 10 big stories from Meta, Arm, Figma, Anthropic, OpenAI, Qualcomm, WeRide, and more to show you the bigger picture of where AI is headed. Let's dive in. First up, the AI chip wars just took a major turn. News number 1. Meta is partnering with Arm to build a new class of data center silicon. This news comes from Meta Newsroom and was released on March 24, 2026. Meta says it's working with Arm to develop CPUs that are purpose-built for data centers and large-scale AI deployments. The key idea here is custom Arm-based CPUs optimized for AI workloads, not just generic compute. Why does that matter? Training and running large models at meta scale is brutally expensive and power-hungry. By co-designing chips with Arm, Meta can tune everything from memory bandwidth to instruction sets to better handle AI inference and training in their own data centers. It's also a sign that big AI players don't just want to buy off-the-shelf chips anymore. They want vertically integrated stacks from model to silicon. That brings us directly to news number 2, which completes the other half of the story. Arm itself is now making its own chips. This news comes from Wired's Artificial Intelligence section and was released on March 24, 2026. Wired reports that Arm, traditionally just a chip design licensor, is now building its own AI-focused CPUs with early customers including Meta, OpenAI, Cerebras, and Cloudflare. So, in the same news cycle, Meta announces a deep silicon partnership with Arm, and Wired reveals that Arm is stepping into making its own AI hardware. Put together, this suggests a new phase. Instead of just NVIDIA GPUs dominating, we're going to see Arm-based AI CPUs becoming a major part of the data center, especially for inference and maybe for some training workloads. It also shows that both cloud platforms and AI labs want more control over the hardware that powers their models. And speaking of running large models efficiently, let's jump to the software side of scaling. News number 6. A technical innovation called paged attention is reshaping how we serve large language models. This news comes from MarkTech Post AI News and was released on March 24, 2026. The article explains that when you run LLMs at scale, the real bottleneck isn't raw compute. It's GPU memory, specifically the KV cache used to store token-level data for each request. Traditional systems allocate a big fixed memory block per request based on maximum sequence length. That wastes a ton of memory and limits how many users you can serve at once. Paged attention changes this by managing the KV cache more like virtual memory in operating systems. It splits the cache into pages and only allocates what's actually needed. That allows much higher concurrency and better utilization of GPUs. Connect that back to the Meta and Arm stories. As hardware gets more specialized, software innovations like paged attention squeeze even more performance out of those chips. The future of AI scale isn't just more GPUs, it's smarter chips plus smarter memory management. Now, while infrastructure gets more efficient, research is quietly making models smarter with fewer parameters. News number 7. TinyLoRA. This news also comes from MarkTech Post AI News and was released on March 24, 2026. The article covers a research paper from a team at FAIR at Meta, Cornell University, and Carnegie Mellon University. They introduced TinyLoRA, a fine-tuning method that can use as few as 13 trainable parameters, yes, 13, to dramatically improve reasoning performance. Using TinyLoRA on the Qwen 257B model, they reached 91.8% accuracy on the GSM 8K math reasoning benchmark. The key takeaway: you don't always need to fine-tune millions of parameters to get big gains. With the right parameterization and sharing strategy, you can push reasoning performance with an almost absurdly small number of learned weights. Tie this into paged attention and custom ARM silicon. The entire stack is getting more efficient. Hardware is more tailored, memory use is smarter, and fine-tuning is lighter. That means cheaper, more accessible, and more deployable AI, not just for tech giants, but eventually for smaller teams and edge devices. Speaking of teams, let's move from infrastructure to how humans actually work with AI. News number 3. Figma is opening its design canvas to AI agents. This news comes from the Figma blog and was released on March 24th, 2026. Figma announces that starting today, you can use AI agents to design directly on the Figma canvas. They also introduce skills which lets you guide these agents with context about your team's decisions, design language, and intent. So instead of just a chatbot that describes a design, you now have agents that can manipulate real design objects in your workflow in real time. With skills, those agents don't just guess. They understand your brand guideline, your component library, and your design system. This is part of a bigger pattern. AI agents are moving from side tools to first-class collaborators inside core productivity platforms. And that connects neatly to our next story about agents in software engineering. News number 10. OpenAI is changing what it means to be a software engineer inside the company. This news comes from a WeChat article published on mp.weixin.qq.com and was released on March 24th, 2026. The piece, titled roughly OpenAI Engineers Don't Write Code Anymore, Let's Unpack Harness Engineering, explains how OpenAI is shifting from humans directly manipulate code to humans design environments where agents can work reliably. In other words, engineers are moving up a level of abstraction. Instead of handwriting every line, they design systems, constraints, and tooling so that AI agents can generate, run, test, and maintain code. The article describes this as building a stable environment where agents can operate, rather than just using AI as an occasional coding assistant. Connect that to Figma. In both design and engineering, humans are becoming orchestrators of agent ecosystems. You define the goals, guardrails, and context. The agents do more of the execution. But for that to work at scale, agents need better ways to share knowledge, especially in coding. That leads us to news number 8. A Mozilla developer is building what they call a Stack Overflow for agents. This news comes from Ars Technica's AI coverage and was released on March 24th, 2026. Ars Technica reports on a project named CQ, which aims to be a shared knowledge platform where AI coding agents can ask and answer questions, similar to how human developers use Stack Overflow. The article notes there are still major problems to solve before this can be widely adopted, things like trust, quality control, and preventing feedback loops where agents just learn from their own bad answers. But the vision is clear. If agents are going to code at scale, they need a structured, queryable knowledge base that's built for them, not just for humans. Put this together. Figma agents designing on Canvas, OpenAI's harness engineering approach, where agents write code, and CQ as a Stack Overflow for agents. We're watching the early formation of an agent-native ecosystem, tools, workflows, and knowledge bases built assuming that AI systems, not just humans, are active participants. Now, let's shift from software to the physical world, where AI is starting to drive literally. News number 5. China's WeRide is targeting robotaxi launches in Hong Kong and Singapore. This news comes from the South China Morning Post's China Tech section and was released on March 24th, 2026. SCMP reports that WeRide, a Guangzhou-based self-driving technology developer, is planning to launch robotaxi services this year in Hong Kong and Singapore. An executive senior director of public relations and marketing, Maeve Zhang, said at a media briefing that WeRide's entry into Hong Kong will cover both robotaxis and robobuses, though details on exact operation areas and launch dates weren't yet disclosed. This signals Chinese autonomous driving companies accelerating their expansion beyond the mainland, testing in dense, complex urban environments with strict regulations. This ties back to the efficiency and edge trends we've been talking about, because autonomous vehicles are essentially rolling edge compute platforms, which brings us to Qualcomm. News number 9. Qualcomm is betting big on the edge AI era and wants to solve IoT fragmentation. This news comes from Tech News in Taiwan and was released on March 24, 2026. The Chinese language article discusses Qualcomm's latest Internet of Things strategy. The core idea: the IoT market is extremely fragmented, different devices, operating systems, connectivity standards, and Qualcomm wants to address this with comprehensive hardware and software solutions. The piece emphasizes that Qualcomm sees solving this fragmentation as a key driver of its development in edge AI. That means unified platforms, better developer tools, and chips that can handle on-device intelligence across many verticals: smart homes, industrial IoT, automotive, and more. Link this to WeRide. Autonomous vehicles, smart sensors, and connected infrastructure all rely on robust edge AI that can work across a messy, heterogeneous environment. Qualcomm's push to unify IoT technologies is part of building the foundation where those AI systems can actually operate in the real world. So far, we've talked about hardware, efficiency, agents, and edge deployment. But there's another crucial theme this week: governance and regulation. News number 4. A US judge is questioning the Pentagon's moves against Anthropic. This news comes from Wired's Artificial Intelligence section and was released on March 24, 2026. Wired reports that during a hearing on Tuesday, a district court judge raised concerns about the U.S. Department of Defense's decision to label Anthropic, the company behind the Claude AI models, as a supply chain risk. The judge described the Pentagon's attempt to cripple Anthropic as troubling and questioned the motivations behind that designation. While the article dives into legal details, the big picture takeaway is that governments are starting to treat major AI labs as critical infrastructure and sometimes as risks. But those actions are now facing real pushback in court. This sits in tension with everything else we've covered. On one side, we have Meta, OpenAI, ARM, Qualcomm, and others racing to scale up AI, put it into chips, cars, design tools, and coding agents. On the other side, regulators and defense agencies are trying to manage perceived risks, sometimes in ways that may overreach. The Anthropic case is an example of that friction becoming very public. Stepping back, there's a clear pattern across all 10 stories. At the bottom of the stack, Meta and ARM are reshaping data center silicon, while Qualcomm pushes edge AI and tries to unify a fragmented IoT world. In the middle, techniques like paged attention and TinyLoRA are making large models cheaper to serve and easier to fine-tune, so you can deploy powerful reasoning systems with less hardware and fewer trainable parameters. On top of that, we're seeing AI agents move into real workflows. Figma's design canvas is now open to agents. OpenAI's engineers are designing environments where agents write and maintain code. And Mozilla's CQ project wants to give those agents a shared Q&A knowledge base. At the frontier of deployment, WeRide is putting autonomy on the streets of Hong Kong and Singapore, while Qualcomm builds the edge platforms that make those kinds of applications possible. And wrapping all of this is a layer of governance and control, where institutions like the US Department of Defense are starting to treat AI companies as strategic assets or risks, and judges are starting to push back when that power is used in ways that look unfair or excessive, as reported by Wired in the Anthropic case. If you want to dig deeper into any of these stories, check out the original sources, Meta Newsroom for the Meta and ARM Silicon Partnership, Wired's artificial intelligence section for both the ARM chip story and the Anthropic legal coverage, the Figma blog for details on agents and skills on the canvas, MarkTech Post AI News for paged attention, and TinyLoRA, South China Morning Post's China Tech for WeRide's robotaxi expansion, Ars Technica for the Stack Overflow for Agents CQ project, Tech News for Qualcomm's Edge, AI, and IoT strategy, and the WeChat article on mp.weixin.qq.com for the inside look at OpenAI's harness engineering. You've been watching Know My Go channel, where we break down the latest AI news and connect the dots so you don't have to. If you want more weekly rundowns like this, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss the next drop, and let me know in the comments which of these stories you think will have the biggest impact. Custom AI, chips, agent workflows, or edge AI and robotaxis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.